right, we're on the eve of our Christmas party tonight at a new location, heading to the Exchange in Bridge Park. How many people you think are going to be there tonight?
I I'm guessing we all have around 225,
220. I think
maybe
that's
250.
a pretty
Yeah.
good guess.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think a lot of people actually wait until like this week to decide if they're going to
Yeah.
go. They get nervous
Yeah.
about it, and maybe if they're like newer to the gym or they don't have, you know, a big friend group yet, they'll be a little nervous of coming. I hope they all make the decision to come one way or another, because these are where people will like gel, and they'll see
Yeah.
people in class they
Yeah.
saw out at the party, and they'll start hanging out and talking
Yeah.
and doing all that. So I'm
Yeah.
excited. I think it's going to be sweet.
No,
That
me too.
that
I'm
place is
really excited.
awesome. Um, we'll just have to find our groove there, but I think that'll be our new spot. So um, this is. I didn't think we'd go any bigger than the View, but this place is bigger than the View.
Hmm.
So we got into our big gym here, and then um, one more bigger venue for the Christmas party. This is about as big as it gets. So no, I'm pumped. But yeah, today I think we're gonna talk goal setting for 2023. Um, we had a huge 2022. I think that was for us a culmination of a career of hard work getting into this facility and executing on it. And um, we're not gonna have as big of a jump this following year, but without goals and setting the bar high, it's hard to keep making these steps forward. And it doesn't have to be bigger and better all the time. It can be little micro goals and things to just keep you going and keep you tracking towards something rather than just living day to day. Yeah, so I think this is a good time before New Year to like start to like dial those in. And then what I like to do is boil them down as well. Like if you set 20 goals for a year really isn't that long to execute on like 20 different things. So it's good to focus on a few things and ones that you can keep your eyeballs on, because if you set 20 goals, you're going to forget half of them 2 weeks into it, and it's
Hmm.
all going to kind of fall apart.
Hmm.
But what are, what are some of your goals? I saw you writing some stuff down, and
Yeah.
even just we can talk about how to set them, um, goals for different aspects of your life.
Hmm.
People are going to expect just fitness stuff from us. And I
Hmm.
think that's always a great, and we have a lot of things and, you know, um, activities and different challenges that can help spur that on. But I think it's good to set multifaceted goals
Hmm.
for your life as well. So why
Hmm.
don't you kick off? Yeah, I see you have some stuff written down. I
Yeah.
don't have all that stuff written down yet, so I'm
Yeah.
just
No,
gonna be talking
I
here.
wanted
So
to, I like to keep organized with my thoughts
yeah,
because I tend not to be very organized with my thoughts. So, um, physically, like I always kind of like to, well, not always, but the last couple years kind of think about like the year more like times to push, times to pull back. Because I think I used to be too aggressive all the time and trying to always be training for something. So I like to look at it in blocks, at like quarterly blocks, or at least like trying to find a month to breathe here or there. So I guess just to kind of start off with like the physical, the fitness stuff, like January through March. My goal my goal mainly is to get stronger, um and stay light. I'm pretty light for myself this time of year, so I'm happy with that through the holidays, and it doesn't feel like a big challenge. So I'd like to stay here and really focus on getting stronger, lifting more, being more explosive. That those are all my weaknesses. So just stay moderate with food, and then really the big thing I think I need to focus on is stringing together like 2 to 3 weeks of weekends not drinking. So we never drink during the week, but like taking out alcohol on the weekend so I can get 3 or 4 weeks together before the open, where I feel really good. And what that allows me to do, I always notice I make um, more gains in the gym, I would say, mainly because of recovery. So I just see how it kind of just it wears out my body going through that whole recovery process. So if I take that out, I think I can rest a little more. Then I also notice it helps just with my metabolism in being able to take in more food, which makes me stronger. So if I go through a couple weekends, I notice I'm eating like 25% more food just because I'm more hungry, and then that makes me stronger and more sturdy in the gym. So that's January through March. I want to prep for the open. Um, and choose a couple weekends to just find other activities to do besides go out to dinner and drink, or go out to dinner and just enjoy the dinner. Um, and then the month of March, I want to relax. We have a lot of travel this year, so we're going to Puerto Rico in March. I just kind of want to relax that month and enjoy it. And then we go to get stem cells in April. So April through June, we'll need to be real careful with our bodies immediately, like before and after that treatment, just so it takes properly and we can get all the benefits from it. So that also coordinates with summer shred. So I start looking at the following year, probably in October or November, when to set up like summer shred. And I started doing that more just this year, just to stay more organized and feel like everything flows, where I'm not like, okay, we're doing summer shred starting in April, but then we have this trip and that trip and this thing, and it just feels like I'm battling myself. So
Yeah. I think the older we've gotten, and I was never like this, that if you can plan, you want to be able to kind of go with the flow, but if you can plan things out in advance that far, you don't just find yourself being interrupted constantly.
yeah, yeah,
I'll talk to people, oftentimes like they'll have these big audacious goals, and then these things just keep punching them in the face constantly. That, oh well, I had this wedding. Well, yeah, I forgot we had this trip, and it's like, well, you have this goal and you have a million obstacles in between you and that goal, and you didn't plan any of that out. You do a fantastic job of like, it pisses me off a lot of times because you'll start talking about stuff in 3-4 months and like really trying to get me to make hard decisions on it. But if you don't do that, if you don't make like a plan to succeed, you're going to fail when it gets closer to it, because you're going to have a million things going on that just like, I can think of a couple clients who, they'd set big goals. Like they wanted to like, I want to be on the team next year. And like, they'd have a long way to go for that. And then, you know, 2 or 3 months, out, they're going, you just see them out, and they're, in they've been in 3 weddings and they're going out every other weekend. And it's like, this isn't going to happen. Like you can't do all of that and execute on that goal. There's no balance there. There's a conflict there. You don't
yeah,
have enough bandwidth or capacity for all of that stuff.
yeah,
So you do a good job of like, hey, you want to execute on this. We have to plan for this a year out. Or it's just not going to work, and it's not going to happen.
yeah.
Um,
I always like to have a focus. Like,
yep.
okay, what's the point of what we're doing right now? Is it to work hard, get in shape? Let's do that. And then when it's time to relax, let's relax and not,
Yep.
not be like, well, I can't really have that cheeseburger even though I want it, and
Sure.
we're, in on an island and it's time to relax. So
Yep.
I
Yep.
like to be able to like fully be engaged in one or the other, not kind of halfway in, halfway out. And I
Sure.
feel like that's where I notice a lot of people get frustrated where they're not really able to fully relax if they're in a relaxing environment, or fully focus on training or
When they
whatever,
should be training.
taking
Yep.
care of their health it if it's that time for them as well. So
Well, keep going through your goals. I think it's good for people to hear them, but then I
yeah,
think we can talk about, you know, how to set these and some
yeah,
actions for it too.
yeah. So, and then I guess to kind of just rewind, my big focus for the open, really for me, I would really love to get a bar muscle up. I've gotten just a couple of really ugly ring muscle ups before, but my hip's horrible, and I would love to just get a bar muscle up this year and be a little bit stronger than I am now. So nothing crazy. I'm just trying to like I kind of with those physical goals, I kind of work off where I'm at right now and think, okay, if I could get 10 to 15% better, that's great. But like the outcome, like when I'm looking at anything I'm competing in, my outcome is just based off of me and my history. I really don't like to compare it to anyone else personally because I just think I set myself up to fail because there's a lot of real badass women in the gym that are around my age and I might not stack up too well, but I can look at where I'm at now and trying to get better. And that's something that's not so daunting or, just out of my control.
Sure.
Um, then March relax. The summer shred, I would like to just get a little bit faster. Again, I probably am not going to PR my 5K. That's probably in the past, but if I could get faster than I was last year, that'd be awesome.
They can't. I mean, the thing is that I'll always notice, especially around this age, with whether it's hitting a weightlifting PR, a running PR, even certain Metcon times when you're starting to hit your 40s, they can happen. They take a lot of more dialed in focus rather than where you're just working on general fitness and PRs are just kind of coming.
Yeah.
When you've got 20 years of training and then you're on the other side of 40, it takes a more of a narrow approach. Like, hey, I want to PR an Olympic lift or my deadlift or my squat. Well, you're going to have to kind of give up a lot of other stuff or have a very narrowed like training focus with all the other aspects of your life for those to come. They get harder.
Yeah.
They can still come. We've had them come in the last couple years, whether it's lifting PRs. Last year I hit a like deadlift and squat PR at 39, which was fun after, 15, 20 years of weightlifting and things like that. But it took, only doing power hour and resting and not doing any Metcons for 12 straight weeks to like nudge up a couple PRs.
Yeah.
They're harder.
And I'm not really willing to do that. So I just want to enjoy my workouts and try to get a little better. But I'm kind of at the point where I'm just not willing to do anything extreme or that's not enjoyable.
Sure. You're trying to live a balanced life. So,
yeah.
So you've got that. Yep.
Okay. So that's April through June. June, just relax. I'm sorry. That's April through June, July through September. Then kind of have a couple months there where we relax.
You've got your physical goals broken down by the months.
Well,
okay.
Yeah. Just kind of different months. So in August, Brandon's looking at doing another boxing match. I actually have a surgery. I had a breast augmentation 17 years ago. I have to get redone. I'm not really looking forward to that, but that's something I need to take into consideration. So that needs to be kind of rest, recovery.
No bench press PRs then?
Okay. Not unless I want to go straight back into the surgery room. Right. Then September through November, we're going to do our retreat again, the beginning of November. So I'd really like to kind of take that time and start to really focus on mental discipline and being a little cleaner, at least about a month before we go and really like be dialed in mentally, physically when we go on that retreat. And then November through December, holidays, relax again. Yep. Overall for my career, really want to focus this year on continuing to develop coaches. And then also our retreat is something I really want to focus on this next year and to make that more impactful every year. And then just to develop more of like a larger, a bigger presence in the gym and in being of support to you and what we have going on here. So just kind of being more intuitive there, right? We've always kind of been like, hey, the gym's your thing, body biz is mine, just kind of being more support as this grows and being more intuitive with it and helping out in that way. I do have family, personal, marriage goals as well. The family goals, I really feel like this year, especially halfway through the year, I really felt like we needed to be like a closer unit and just spending more time, just the four of us, where I would try to do like always, plan things with other families or our grandparents and just having more time just to be at home and really connect with each other. And I feel like we're doing that and we have a pretty good handle on what our kids are going through. And I just want to continue to do that. 'Cause our son Oscar's in first grade and he's already going through little things where, hey, this kid won't talk to me, or, just really being there and understanding what he's going through all the time and being connected with our kids, which takes a lot of time and energy. And I think that's more of like a daily thing. But then just not not planning these grandiose activities, but more like just simple things where we can connect.
Sure.
Um, Marriage goals, we were in a good habit of like we would kind of connect once a week and do some breath work together and kind of like some assignments that we got from some mentors of ours. And I think that fell off. That was something we haven't done for a little while. So I'd like to kind of get back to our weekly connection and date nights, just you and I. We don't do that a lot.
Sure.
Um, Personal goals. I like to continue to work through some sticking points that I feel like internally kind of hold me back. And they hold me back more just like in the areas of just general peace and happiness when I don't have something on the horizon. Like, tonight I'm really excited for our party, but I don't want to have that nugget at the end of the day, or a dinner or this or that to just be happy and it just kind of be excited about
So I
life.
think that little point you brought up is something that a lot of people who are CrossFit athletes or people who go to our gym, like most of the people here are high achievers. And what we can fall into the trap of is kind of living like goal to goal or event to event, and then when those are over, in between those, like, when that doesn't, I guess, give you that feeling that you think it's going to leave you kind of like distraught, because a lot of people here they're good at executing those goals, and then they're like, now what? So I think that's a really good one for a lot of people to just like try to work on finding some inner peace even when that goal is accomplished and when those things, because I think it's cliche, and a lot of people talk about, you have to love the process of it, but you have to, because checking off these goals in the last few years, personally, me and you have checked off some pretty big ones, and ones that, like, I think even in the past, I think I felt were unrealistic, or if I could only do this, then I would be happy. And it doesn't, you're definitely, you feel good for a minute, and then it's kind of back to it, so you have to work on being good with you.
Mhm.
And I think that's a great goal. And it's a really tough, it's probably the toughest one, because it's not it's not linear, like I want to back squat 20 more pounds, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's an easy one to at least know the path and to execute on, where this one is one that you might find it and lose it, and
Mhm.
it's a fleeting thing, and
Mhm.
it's constant work, and that's a process in itself. So I like that one, as well. I think the thing for people, have you got through, that's kind of about all of them,
Yeah,
right?
well, I was just gonna go through, like, actions of but go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I think, leading into it, I think what I'd want to tell anyone who's listening to it is, um, when you go into it, like, I have a business coach, and I loved what he set me up. My homework before my next call, I do a call with a business coach once a month, was set 4 goals. So it's a business goal. It is a client experience goal, a human resources goal, so like for our staff, and then a personal goal. So you need to have all 4 for running your business each year. So if all of it is just in your business, and then all you're doing is just grinding towards that, and that might be what you're doing the first few years, and you don't have a personal goal or something that's fun for you, you're going to get burnout. And but I think narrowing it down to, like, and you didn't have too many, you got into your actions a lot there. But I think having a few goals to execute on and then coming up with your action plan. And if it's too complicated, the action plan, you're probably more than likely to fall off of it and fail. I do think it's important to have it for multiple aspects of your life. But if you have a part of your life that is like, it's a glaring issue, like you're an alcoholic or something, like you might have one goal and it's to, kick that habit or whatever it is. So if you have one thing in your life that is like a big glaring habit or, you have horrible insomnia or whatever it is, I got to get back into a good sleeping pattern. It could be solving that problem is going to solve a lot of other problems. But I think having them in multiple aspects of your life will help balance you out as a person, but they can't be the biggest thing. And we've talked about this before, not having conflicting goals. Mm-hmm. So you're on the edge of one with your staying light and getting stronger, which is a bit of a conflicting goal there. And that is a challenge. I'm not just trying to give you shit, but like,
yeah. But that's also, if I'm going to get a muscle up, I put on 5 pounds, yes. It's not there.
Yes. And it's possible you haven't maxed out your strength.
Yeah.
You've been doing a lot, like leading into this part of the year. You haven't been like really attacking like heavy weights and strength. And if you narrow your focus to that, like even just neurologically putting stuff together, it's very reasonable for you to get quite a bit stronger at the size you are. I'm just telling people who are listening to it, like, unless you're a novice and you haven't been training, like saying, hey, I want to, and especially if you're not you don't have a ton of weight to lose, like I want to lose 10 pounds and be shredded and then also put a lot of weight on my back squat. Like that's a conflicting goal. And you're going to start to like run your head into a wall attempting to do that. That's a fitness one. You also have to look at it from a personal standpoint. Like, so if you have a goal to like, I don't know, it would be, spending a lot more time with your family, but also if you're in sales, making another, I'm going to generate another $100,000 in sales for my company and I travel, like those are two very opposing goals that it's probably not going to work. So I would say like one of the biggest things you need to do when you're setting up your goals, don't set up ones, like look for conflicts, check those, and then determine what's the most important goal there. So if you have two big conflicting goals,
I always say to people, yeah,
because I'm sure you deal with that a lot with the body biz, because people are like, they're trying to break down their body and it's like, they'll have like a pretty audacious like performance goal on like maybe they want to do a marathon or something like that, or they want to do, but then at the end of the day, they just want to get really fit and lean. And you're like, okay.
Training for a 5K would get you there much better.
Yeah. What are we looking to do here? Yeah. Like, is this the body you're looking for? And I remember years ago, you had a guy who was an athlete and he wanted to get stronger. He was like a real lean, ripped 6-pack guy. And he had been, a competitive CrossFit athlete for years, and strength was what was basically holding him back. He had a good motor and all of this stuff. And then you basically like laid it out to him like, okay, we're gonna have to put like 20 pounds of body weight on you. You're going to probably lose those abs, and you're going to have to, you want to gain 50 pounds on your squat and these lifts to compete at this higher level. That's what you're going to have to do. And maybe it'll kind of come back together where but you're going to have to kind of choose, and you're going to have to actually tell me that, because you can't do both at the same time right now. And he's like, I kind of want to just be ripped.
Yeah. Everyone chooses that. When they're in the office with me, everyone chooses that. The only person that didn't was Joey, but he was sitting there with like an 8-pack. And I'm like, well, you're already doing everything now. So of course you would pick performance, because I really don't think.
Yeah, he didn't need, he was
like
good,
even if you put on 5% body fat, you lose one vein,
Yeah.
So, if push comes to shove, if I'm training and I'm really exhausted and I need to put on 10 more pounds, I'll be like, it's okay. I'm going to stay where I'm at.
Sure.
I always know in my mind where that stacks up.
Yep.
And I when I made the team 1 year, I stepped down to let Kiri have my position. She was the better athlete. She was just recovering from a knee surgery. But to get really strong, I was about 20 to 25 pounds heavier than I am now. So to really like throw up, I mean, a lot of those weights, I just wasn't used to Olympic lifting, and it was tough for me. So it's not that I had to, it's just like I could tell, like I wanted to throw down on food after every workout, that was really, really heavy and intense. So I'm going to kind of max out where I can go right now. But I like for me to kind of put my body through that again. I don't think it's worth it.
I think coming back to when we're setting those goals too, like make one change that you can sustainably make for the year. So I'm talking to my business coach. So it's like you can basically in your business, you can change a bunch of things, but if you're already doing a pretty good job, you can from like a client experience perspective, you can do like one thing. Now when we moved into this facility, it's quite a bit different because we have, you know, quite a few things. So for a gym like ours, it could be I'm going to hire a front desk person
Mhm.
for these hours. And that's going to actually help us like someone answering emails, answering the phone. So it's not just one coach in the gym. And then when he goes home at night, that's how I used to do it. Me and Graham would coach classes. Then I'm just jamming on my phone or on the computer, catching up on emails. No one's actually answering anything in real time. So that could be a big, profound client experience change that you have that. We're pretty dialed in here. Now we have a lot of those things. So the one thing that, I think our goal is, and I'll let it kind of out of the bag. I think this is what we're going to do is we're going to, it's a small thing, but, have like a coffee bar and provide free coffee. So that's going to be like our client experience, like something that you would notice in there. It's like, oh, I have, I can go and pump some coffee and that
Mhm.
is a client experience change. It could be a towel service, whatever it
Mhm.
is. It's
Mhm.
one thing you can sustainably do for the year. But when you're making personal goals, that's also something that we need to think about. Like if you have 50 New Year's resolutions, you're not going to do any of them. If you have one in each little aspect of, I'm going to ride my bike to work, every day, something like that, that actually you could do.
Mhm.
I think that's really important.
Mhm.
Um, with fitness, it could be adding one day to your training. Like I always work out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Well, I think this next year I'm going to try and I don't do anything on Saturday or Sunday really that keeps me from, I just like to sleep in. It feels good and this and that. I'm going to start going in on Saturday or Sunday and get a weekend
Mhm.
day, every week. No reason I can't do that. That is like a sustainable goal that is not unrealistic
Mhm.
to add to it.
Mhm. Well, just to kind of come back here, and I'll
Yep.
finish up, and you can get into yours.
I'm not gonna goals and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So for personal goals, to work through those sticking points, biweekly talk therapy, I think, is really helping me and something I want to keep into daily meditation. That's something I currently do, but continue to do that. And then the last one, which is probably the most important, is to recognize misplaced anger. So when I feel that coming up, not attach it to someone or something that's really not the root of that, and kind of just calming myself down to like feel what it might be, or just even recognize that that's not it, and I just need to kind of be calm. That's a deeper seated something else is going on. So that I find really, really helpful. Just to even try to do that's very difficult. So if I can practice that more often, I think it will help a lot.
Yeah, I think you know, I love your goals and I think reading those is a great example. I don't want to spend another 30 minutes like going
Mhm.
into the detail of like each one. I know with those four that my coach, I'm still working on those, but we're talking about doing the coffee. I've got a couple of like athletic goals. I want to do a boxing match, do the open, couple of things like that. Work on team building things with the coaches.
Mhm.
Always my goal with them is to keep increasing their pay. So that's always the main thing. Trying to get them paid as much as I can through what we can do, and that's what's gonna help keep them here and keep them glued to the gym and all of that. And then so that was like the business one, the client experience one. Oh, and then I just have like some revenue goals for the gym. So it's just keeping on increasing like some membership and things like that. And there's certain little areas where we can improve. CrossFit's going great. The business is going really well overall. So it's just like tweaking those knobs and dialing them in, but also just making them very like clear cut and straightforward. Like, okay, here's what we're going to do here. We're going to execute on this by doing X, Y, and Z. And they're simple and they're sustainable. And I think it's like working out. It's just building momentum through those goals and creating ones that you're able to hit that have you reach far enough, but not too far.
So what do you think holds people back from hitting some of these goals?
I think they set ones that are too far out. So I think I think people set like macro goals that are, I've had people tell me like, so I'll use I'll use like a CrossFit move. I've had people say, I want to hit 7 ring muscle ups by the open.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, say it's the summer before the open. It's really far away. Like, how many do we have now? None. Okay. That's not a good goal to have.
Mm-hmm.
So having it's like having a placement, like it'd be like me saying, I want to get, 6th place in the Masters category at the CrossFit Games. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever made a qualifying layer to that?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point.
We
Just
need,
setting realistic goals,
yeah,
understanding where you're at now, and yeah.
yeah, or it's setting goals that aren't ahead of where you've gotten to yet. So it's like you need to cross this bridge before you even think
Mm-hmm.
about crossing that bridge. So
Mm-hmm.
it would be like the big goal for that athlete would be getting 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not talking about that far out. So in 3 months, I would love to get 1 ring muscle up.
Mm-hmm.
Here's, okay, where are we at? Is this a realistic goal? Do we have like dips? Do we have chest to bar pull-ups? All these things. Okay. All right. This is like a tracking goal that we can work on. Again, now if we don't have chest to bar pull-ups, now we're going back. We got to get those. So that's your goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then it might not be that far out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for like physical goals. So like not setting the bar too far away
Mm-hmm.
before you've executed on X, Y,
Mm-hmm.
and Z.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and you can apply that to anything. So it would be like when I was back at the old Rogue Gym in Gahanna, like my goal was to move the gym to a facility that had the capacity for 300 members. That was a huge, audacious goal for a gym that had 100 members. But it wasn't like a step like going straight to this.
Mm-hmm.
It was like get into a warehouse that could facilitate that.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have said, well, I want to be here where we're at right now. And like, that's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a million steps between that and this
Mm-hmm.
and buying a building.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is where a lot of people fail is they set
Mm-hmm.
this bar way too far out rather than something they can quickly and actionably
Mm-hmm.
execute on.
Okay. So what if the goal is realistic?
Yep.
What do you think holds most people back from hitting? So let's say your goals for the year.
Sure.
What would hold you back because they're all very realistic goals? What would be some factors that would hold you back?
Oh, actually just being compliant with it. So
What would hold you back from being compliant?
yourself. Yeah. Your mind, your discipline, all of those
So I didn't hear any of your mind goals this year, Brandon. Let's talk
Oh,
about
that's what I
those.
see. You're like looking at me all angry,
No, you like to
okay,
talk about what's comfortable. So let's talk about your mind goals,
okay,
personal goals.
sure, sure. Um, it's something I think this year I've done the best on, but it's finding that quiet time and that quiet space to meditate each day. So executing on that each day, whereas like especially the last week or two, I've not done a good job of that.
So what do you think happens? What do you notice happening when you don't do that?
Everything else starts to not go as well.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer
Yep.
in this mind stuff because people always act like it doesn't matter because
Sure.
it's uncomfortable to talk about. No one wants to sit here and talk about, man, my anger might hold me back from actually reaching my goals, but I get frustrated because I get angry. And when I get frustrated, I give up. I'm like, nope, I can't do that.
Yep.
Even you're working with me on my snatches, you're working with me on my power cleans.
Yep.
And I told you this morning, I'm like, listen, I know I have a really hard time making adjustments. I'll tell you what holds me back right now, fear. Fear. I know I can do it. I just have this fear.
Sure.
And I have to kind of just make these baby steps to not be afraid. Fear is a big factor for me. That always holds me back. But that's literally right here. My body can do it and I know it. I can feel it. I just will not make the adjustment until I get so comfortable with that.
So at the end of the day, the mind game with all of these goals is what doesn't allow us to execute or allows us to execute on all of them.
Yes.
100%. No, I agree with you 100%. And that's the more nuanced part of goal setting is like, okay, I'm setting these goals. Why does 90% of like New Year's resolutions fail? It's because people aren't compliant, people aren't executing on them because they mentally
Yes.
fail
Yes.
on these goals. So what are the mental
Yeah.
so what are the mind things that we can do? Boom, turning it over to Kate here.
Yeah.
Where she's going to go ahead and jump in and
Grill
tell us
you.
what's happening. Yeah, no, it's good. Cuz no, you're 100% right.
And this is what
that wasn't where I was going with that, but that's I think honestly, yeah, it's the most important thing. Whether you're trying to be a high-end CrossFit Games athlete, you're trying to lose 50 pounds, it is 100% in
or you're
between
trying to
your
have a
ears.
successful business.
Yeah.
And we,
Sure.
we talk about this all the time. I mean, this industry is high burnout. And part of why I feel like we are successful is we're just consistent. Consistent compliance. Compliance with any sort of physical program, day in and day out, keeps you going. So you have to worry about injury. With work, you have to worry about burnout. And it's literally how do you take care of yourself on that other side. So I like to at least identify the emotions that we need to work through to be like more compliant and free. So one of mine that always comes up is anger. What is the emotion you need to work through, or one or two this year to be successful?
Anger as well. I think everyone I think that's a big one for everybody, even the most
Smiley,
the most
nice
smiley. So the people
We
who are
always
the
talk about this.
smiliest and nicest, like they're like, man, he's so nice. And I'm like, that guy's probably the most pissed off dude
There's a rage inside.
you've ever seen. And there was a really, it's not to go on a huge tangent with it, but like there's a good, it's like a Simpsons episode. It's Flanders, he's like the nicest guy. And he was like, it showed him like he was in some like psychological experiment. He was just spanked for like 10 straight years. And then he has a psychological break and just doesn't give a shit. And he's just a complete asshole to everybody. And, but it's true. Yes. So anger absolutely holds you back. It locks you up.
So how does that manifest for you? And I think this is a good thing to recognize within yourself. So this is something we can each apply to ourselves. How does that exhibit in your behavior when you feel that?
I think it shuts me down a little bit. I just kind of turn inward and I get kind of like kills my motivation and I get negative and kind of down on everything and yeah.
And I have the
Again,
opposite problem.
it's so yeah, you start speeding up.
I start doing too much all the time, buying things,
Mhm.
planning things. I try to like
So you're
rescue
someone who would like
myself.
eat a lot in
Yeah.
that situation. I'm someone who would shrivel away.
Hmm.
And that's like our opposite
So if you
personalities when it
see
comes to
me
that.
gain 50 pounds and Brandon lose 50 pounds,
Yeah.
you know we're going through
Yeah.
it.
No, it does. It creates a lot of inaction with me, and it creates like an abundance of like sort of frazzledness with you,
Yeah.
I feel like.
And
Yeah.
so it's anger, but then it's anxiety, and
Sure.
then how you cope with that. And I think it's really the reason why I'm saying this. I think it's really important. No one's ever going to be perfect. We're
Yep.
never going to have days where I don't like spout off at you or you spout off at me. We have a lot going on right now. What's happening all this week, and for you to recognize that, say, okay, listen, this is misplaced. This is just how I was feeling, and I want to be angry at someone for it. There's no, we have this party. We have we had to have like this huge plumbing project done in our house. It's all torn up. We have Christmas in 2 weeks. I couldn't wrap any presents. I have a guest coming in from out of town as well. Just all these things going on, and there's no one to blame. It's just the way it is,
Yep.
and to just recognize that and take a moment to just like almost like Kis I'm just gonna say the word wrong, but like commiserate. Yes, commiserate together on like, "Hey, this just sucks. Let's laugh about it.
Sure.
No one has an answer for this. No one's to blame." But recognizing that, because when you can recognize it, then you can reframe it mentally. When you can reframe it mentally, you get renewed energy. When you can pull yourself out of that. And this is the most important piece, I think, for people to be successful. I don't care if it's on a nutrition plan, if it's on a workout regimen, if it's with your job. I've seen people move and leave the industry so many times, 10 times over, just literally because they got burnout, because they got frustrated working through this shit to be better. It gets hard. Marriage gets hard. Friendship gets hard. You get these sticking points. But if you can find ways to when to push, when to pull back, and to work through those sticking points, you will be successful if you keep going.
And that's a great point. I was actually listening to a podcast on it was Joe Rogan, and David Goggins was just on there recently, and so they're talking about athletes and fighters. And he was asking, "Oh, is there any old guys good like in the UFC or something like that?" And they're talking about old basketball players and different things, and David Goggins, so he's an older dude, like he's in his like later 40s, I think, and this guy will run like 200 miles a week and does these like ultra marathons, and his body's pretty messed up now, um and he made a really good point. He's like it's not so much like the body getting old, and I think a lot of people, whether it's, I mean, we have a lot of students here. All of our students are grad students and like really high achieving students, and so they've been in school for pushing 20 years now. He said what gets people, and this goes into your goals too, especially when if you're already tired and now you're setting goals, they get real tough. He said it's not their body really just getting old. It's like he said it is 100% the grind of it. He's like, you've been in the grind. You're 15 years into an professional athletic career. So there was another 10 years before that where you're a developing athlete. He said getting up and pushing, going to the gym and working, or going to your job and just working. Everyone's looking for that spot of comfort. He said that's where they all lose it.
Mhm.
That's where they all lose it. It's when you can't push and grind and you're just tired of it is when you lose it. And I think we all look for that comfort. Hey, I want to get to this comfortable spot where I'm cruising. It's unfortunate to say, but like that isn't where you haven't made it there. The second you make it there, and we always talk about it, like when you make it there, where okay, everything's good and golden, and that's why people like super, especially high achievers. Actually, people who aren't as high achieving do much better in retirement if they've had like a regular job. And if you're like this high achieving CEO, and these guys, they retire and they're like 68, 69 years old, 70 years old. I know it personally from family members because this recently happened. They retire and they're dead. Like they're dead because they don't have that anymore. So you have to find something and a purpose to keep going, and don't run away from that. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm just now starting to learn that, at 40 is don't find that spot to just completely like, oh, okay, now I can be like, that's never going to
But
happen.
I think it goes
Yeah.
deeper than that too.
Okay.
So that usually those high achievers, and now Joe Rogan is really like a name that I think is pretty neat because he's dove so deep into this mental aspect of health and how it affects you. But I think those high achievers, like especially, a generation ago, they just focus on work, 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 work. They never thought who am I without this?
Sure.
So, and I know that family member you're talking about, very, very sweet man, but I don't think he knew who he was outside of being this very high achieving athlete or professional. Who are you? And then when you're always attaching only your self-worth to those achievements, like goals are great. We just set them. But if you don't have confidence without achieving the X, Y, and Z, it's never going to stick. Happiness is never going to stick. You're never going to go through the grind. It's going to get old. You're going to get burnout because it's exhausting to always be pushing for that. But if you can find that peace, and that's what I want to work on and continue to work on is having that peace.
That was the retreat. So
yeah,
that's what we really worked on there, and I think we made some really good headway.
Yeah,
with all the people there and ourselves, especially.
And it helped us. I mean, we were into that week, and I'm like, man, this is probably like the most peaceful we've been on a trip together ever because we're focusing on other people's happiness. Let's think about that more. We got married a little later in life. Like instead of diving into everything we want to do, sometimes it's just literally getting outside of yourself and kind of thinking about. That's why volunteering makes people happy and kind of like, get out of their head a little bit. But I think the mind piece is really important. So what actionable item are you going to do to work on that?
I think we can leave the podcast here. What I'm going to do is daily make it a non-negotiable, whether it's like working out, even always try and set a time every day to do the meditation. But if it doesn't happen, then plan like, okay, I'm going to do it. Man, I might have to do it before bed or wake up first thing in the morning and do it then to keep that chain unbroken and then make that just a daily habit. And it's, it can be as long as 30 minutes and as short as 10. Yep. All right.
Good job.
All right. Get after those goals, guys. Hope you got something out of this.